There are a lot of videos online that talk about whether WordPress or Webflow is better. And personally, I've also recorded a lot of videos on the topic, which you can find on my channel. But in this video, we're not gonna be talking about that. We're gonna be talking about the process of migrating from WordPress over to Webflow if you've decided that Webflow is a better platform for you in this marketing year. My name is Arash and I'm the founder and CEO of the Flow Ninja Studio. And over the past years, we've helped many companies migrate from WordPress over to Webflow. And also, for some of them, we've also told them that they should not migrate in the end. But with all of that experience, we've launched hundreds and hundreds of websites over to Webflow and also won the Enterprise Partner of the Year for Webflow in 2023. So because of that, we want to go ahead and cover the process of migrating over from WordPress to Webflow and all of the things you need to know and maybe some of the myths of kind of how the process actually works. So why do clients which choose Webflow migrate? Again, I'm not going to say which is better. I'm just saying in our experience, when clients come over to us and say, hey, we want to migrate over from WordPress to Webflow, this is what I hear and this is what our sales team and our agency hears in the end. So the first thing is like the enhanced design flexibility. So by leveraging Webflow as a platform, you're going to be creating your own design system. You're going to be creating your own components. You're going to be creating your own way to build the website itself from the ground up in a visual way. I like to say that you're going to be getting the flexibility of a custom platform and a custom development, and like maybe even the flexibility of connecting a headless solution to a custom development platform. But all of that is going to be inside of Webflow. You're going to have the CMS directly connected, and you're going to have a visual way to go ahead and change those things, to add new components, to change components, and even in the end to sync all of that to Figma. The next thing is improved performance. Again, WordPress builds can be really performant. Don't get me wrong. But on the other side, it's much easier to get a performant website on Webflow because Webflow is handling hosting, deployment, minification of like all the code. In general, you are controlling the way you build a website without a lot of bloat. So because of that, clients come to us for increased performance in terms of page load speeds and how the website performs after all. Then it comes down to maintenance. I like to say to customers that Webflow doesn't require maintenance. So if you build a website today, you leave it for 5 years, it's still gonna work and it's gonna work perfectly in the end. You're not gonna be paying for maintenance. And like if you're a marketer and maybe you have, let's say, a 5 to 10K budget to spend on an agency, it's much better to spend 5 to 10K to build new things and the agency to actually work on new items on your website and not to spend that money on like maybe 1 to 2K on maintaining the website, updating plugins, and just ensuring that the day-to-day status quo is working as expected. And then finally, some clients had pretty bad experiences with plugins. And because of that, they just want to run away and like they don't want to use plugins anymore. And the good thing about Webflow is that usually we're not using almost any plugins. Webflow has an app marketplace, but in the end, for most builds, we're either writing custom code or we're building directly into the platform because it has all of the things we need. So because of that, sometimes we see people running away from plugins and wanting to go to Webflow for a cleaner and simpler solution in the end. And you can even see that on the Webflow case study page. For example, for Rakuten, they increased their visitors by like 12 to 13% by migrating over to Webflow. They reduced their bounce rates by almost 30%. They increased their users by almost 10%, 9.5. Finally, they also increased their paid sessions. So just because of that, like you do see benefits of migrating to Webflow and to a new platform and to something clean, which is going to be maintained by a long run. And with that also internally, like we've migrated many even from publicly traded companies over to startups over to Webflow. And what we can see is that they reduce costs. So they go ahead and give the developers who are working on the website back to the platform, or like maybe they don't need them after all. They go ahead and speed up the time to market. So they launch like in days instead of weeks. And in the end, they make the page load times better for the website. But all of that aside, how do you actually migrate from WordPress to Webflow? Let's dive into that part. A lot of people think that there's a magic wand like that you push like this and you migrate the website over to Webflow. But that's not the case. Even if there are plugins which are gonna allow you to do a one-to-one migration from WordPress to Webflow, in that case, you're probably not gonna gain the benefits of leveraging Webflow as a platform. The thing is, if you're building a website in Webflow, you need to build on really good solid foundations in order to get the benefits I'm describing. Because really easily, if you do a really bad Webflow build and like maybe you don't choose the right partner or you don't implement it properly, you're gonna end up with a website which might be even worse than what you had previously in WordPress. So that's why every single website that we migrate personally at the agency starts with a discovery session. That's where we want to understand your whole sitemap. There are a lot of pages that you forget about that are maybe important, maybe are converting some of the people. So we need to ensure that we have a Google Sheet which has every single link you want to have. Afterwards, you're gonna need to identify the URL structure. Maybe you want to change it, maybe you don't want to keep the current URL structure. I think that most of the URL structures are possible in Webflow, but they're maybe not the best possible approach if you want to speed up time. So many times we recommend our clients to go ahead and change their URL structure in order to use the Webflow content management system in a better way, in order to use kind of Webflow folders and subfolders in a better way, to in the end get a result which is going to be more scalable and which is going to be easier to maintain long term. Then we want to identify what's the kind of component library system and like what's the style guide for the website. Sometimes clients don't even have this. So we need to establish a design system and we need to establish a style guide we're going to be building the website on, and maybe even standardizing the website as we build it to ensure that we don't have a lot of unique cases which just slow down the development and which are hard to maintain. And only after we have this, we can proceed further. The next thing is going to be content. It's hugely going to depend on the way your WordPress has been set up previously. If it has been kept clean and easy, we're just going to be able to export the content in a CSV from WordPress and import it backwards into Webflow. But from my experience, that usually never happens because there are a lot of custom fields for a specific blog or for a specific case study or anything like that. So sometimes we even need to do hire a virtual assistant to go ahead and crawl the website and just to understand how to approach the migration itself. And then we're going to need to identify integrations. So what are all of the integrations the website has? Do we need to bring all of them over to Webflow? How are we going to be implementing them? I mean, that comes to analytics, it comes to like ATS solutions, it comes to the CRM, it comes to tracking. How are we going to be applying tracking? Just to have that information as well before we start the migration over to Webflow. Then we also move away to like more technical things, like is your website reverse proxied? How are we going to handle a reverse proxy in Webflow? Because it's possible to do it. So like just to understand, like, are we going to be proceeding with reverse proxy inside of Webflow? Do we have some custom code and like any platform integrations? So some of our clients are integrating onto their marketing websites directly with the platform itself. And with all of those data points, we go ahead and create a documentation plan and we create a migration plan for WordPress to Webflow. And because of that, we can also include some specific pinpoints in the document itself. Because like the marketing team can say, hey, you know what? We have problems in updating blogs. We have load times problems on these pages. We have problems with people being able to publish blogs like on their own. So on top of just the technical aspects, we can understand the pinpoints of what clients have as problems and how they want to use Webflow as a platform. And with all of those data points, we can go ahead and actually proceed towards building a proper Webflow website and to setting up an experience which is going to be better than what you had previously. Then it comes to building. The first thing is, of course, you need to go ahead and create a style guide. So there are many different style guides online that you can find. You can use ours. We have published it on our website. You can use style guides from other agencies, but it's important that you start from a style guide and that you create variables inside of Webflow. When you have that, then you're going to be starting to actually build pages. You're going to be understanding which pages you want to build as pages, like static pages, which pages you want to build as template pages, which pages you want to build in the content management system, because like, for example, case studies can be a content management. Some industry pages can be content management. So it's really important also to leverage all of the functionalities that Webflow has in order to proceed further. And then when you set up the style guide, the variables, you understand which pages you want to build where, then you actually start building pages, but you also ensure that you're using components on the website to understand that when you're building the website, it's going to be easy for you, your team and your marketers to build afterwards. I've heard a lot of horror stories of customers getting websites which don't use proper class naming systems, which don't use components, and then in the end the marketing team is really excited about using the website, but they cannot use it in the way they were expecting to because it's not been built properly. So just to ensure that you do use components and that you use a proper class naming structure as well. When you build out all the pages inside of Webflow, migrate the content, hopefully import the CSV from WordPress or maybe create a new CSV with virtual assistants, you're gonna be able to have everything inside of Webflow. So you have the website, you have the content, you have the blogs, you've migrated everything, and then it comes down to the quality assurance process. This is sometimes a place where people skip, but we like to ensure that we have a fully in-house QA team which is gonna go over every single page, is gonna test it on different browsers, he's gonna test it on different devices. So Windows, Mac, he's gonna test it on Safari, he's gonna test it on Chrome, he's gonna test it on mobile devices, different mobile devices, just to ensure that the design system and the website backbone that we built is actually scalable and is easy to build long term. When quality assurance is done, we're also gonna ensure that on the SEO side everything is perfect to ensure that in the migration we don't lose any of the SEO traffic. A lot of our clients see a spike in SEO from 10 to 20% if everything is done in a good way, but also if you don't do a migration properly, you're gonna possibly lose on SEO. So it's important to know that our headings set up properly. Do we have just a single H1? Are the heading hierarchy set up properly? Do we have all of the alt text set up properly? Are all of the SEO titles and descriptions set up properly? Open graph images set up properly? And just to ensure that the SEO technical structure is set up in the best way possible, and that you also on the back end add redirects, and that you ensure that all of the possible pages are redirected if you change any of the URL structures, or if you have some old redirects on the WordPress setup that you need to bring them over afterwards as well. And when you have all of this set up, now we come to integrations. So it can be anything I said, kind of maybe integrating Greenhouse and ATSs, integrating the CRM of your choice to track everything and to submit forms and to ensure that the forms are actually sending the data where they need to send it. Then we come down to like other integrations. Maybe you're gonna use A/B testing. Maybe you're gonna be using a kind of localization to ensure that the website is gonna be present in multiple different locales, and just to ensure that none of the features you had previously are being missed in the new migration. I mean, like personally, like when we were a younger agency, we made mistakes where we migrated a website and the client is like, hey, you know what, where is our VWO after a few months? And he's like, okay, I guess we should have done research in terms of kind of what's important for them and what we cannot kind of break in any specific case when we do the migration itself, to ensure that everything is run properly. And also on top of that, you need to understand like whether you've transferred all the PDFs and the hosted files from WordPress over to Webflow or to a third-party tool. Because we've made personally also mistakes, again, like telling you from our experience of hosting PDFs on WordPress, migrating the website on Webflow, and then publishing it, just to realize that all of the PDFs that we had on WordPress are now down because like the hosting provider is not available anymore. So ensure that also any of the files you have hosted on the WordPress instance and like on the hosting provider are being brought over either to Webflow or by like Amazon or anywhere else you want to host them, to ensure that you don't lose anything in the migration process itself. With all of those steps brought in, you're now ready to go live. So you can connect your domain, you can go live, and you can publish your website to Webflow. And I don't want to stop here, because my idea of Webflow as a platform is that it's going to allow you to go ahead and optimize your content and optimize your website and continuously grow it. So don't think about like, hey, I've done the migration over from like WordPress, I can have more flexibility, I can change more content, I can do all of that. But in the end, ensure that you actually use that and use it to your advantages. So plan new campaigns, plan new items on the website, and just continuously invest into the website, because my philosophy is that websites are never done, and I believe that if every company adopted that like philosophy, they would be getting a lot more conversions and a lot more business from their website. And finally, with everything set in stone and you continue pushing towards on Webflow, ensure that you constantly train your teams. At Flow Ninja, we do kind of record custom videos, and sometimes we even fly to the customer's location to go ahead and do an in-person training of Webflow as a platform. But just ensure that whoever new comes into the organization knows the platform, knows the capabilities of the platform, and that with that knowledge, you can continuously grow your brand and you can be a happy CMO kind of in the end. So what do you think? What are your concerns about migrating from WordPress over to Webflow? Or what are some of the things you would like us to cover in the next video on the WordPress to Webflow migration? Write a comment down below. And if you want us to migrate your website from WordPress over to Webflow, we've done it for companies which are publicly traded. We've done it for companies which are startups. You can go ahead and visit the link down below and schedule a call with our team.